money for your center today? Hopefully everybody. So obviously the title of the presentation today is about marketing your center. But you see here these two caveats at the bottom, I think are the most important part of the slide. We don't want to waste time and we don't want to waste money. So before we begin, I just wanted to get a quick read of the room just to see kind of where people are at right now. Who here does like a lot of promotions or marketing for their center currently? Anybody? You guys do some? Okay. And then who does like nothing at all right now? Like no promotion, no marketing? Okay. And I guess whoever else is just still in the middle. Okay. It just helps to get a read of the room. So
how about the people who just want to wish they could?
This is an objective reality we're dealing in. We're going to get to the aspirational stuff next.
We think a lot about it.
The other thing before we begin, I just wanted to take a second to recognize you all for being here. Because, let's face it, you just talked about having enough time in the day. There's a lot of things we could be doing. But the fact that you guys are here, you took time to learn and made it out here to meet with colleagues and better yourselves, shows me that you guys really care about your center. You really want to, and you're willing to invest money and time into growing your business. So quick kudos to you guys for making it out here. Because let's be honest, there's a lot more centers in Colorado than are present here today. And I think if we look at the long-term trajectory, the people who show up to these and better themselves and learn are the ones who do best long-term. So I just want to recognize you guys for being here. So for today, I have just really one simple mission. Just looking to show you guys the exact frameworks that we use for our clients to help them grow their open play in food and beverage. Speaking of which, one of them right here. Let's go, Tom. Yeah, likewise. So I'm going to show you exactly what we do for Alex and his center, and hopefully you guys can take it in and implement it into your centers as well. So I don't believe in secret recipes because somebody still has to cook. And so I'm going to show you guys exactly how we do it. So here's what we're going to be covering today. A little bit about today's consumer, what people are doing, our behavior, where they're at. The 3 ways to grow your center. And we boiled it down, basically, conversations with guys like Don over here and other people in the industry. It really comes down to 3 different ways you can grow your center. We're going to talk about those. Fulfilling demand versus creating demand and the difference between the two. How you can build content, because I don't know about you guys, but I've talked to a lot of proprietors who struggle to get like video and photo and stuff. I'm going to show you guys a really easy way to take care of that once and for all. And then the last piece is your other funnel. So a lot of the things we're going to be talking about getting customers in the door, works for getting candidates through the back door. So we're going to go over that next. So what you'll be able to walk away from today, or walk away with today, is a sense of clarity. So there's a lot of stuff that you could do for marketing and promotion, right? There's so many different things, so many different, direct mail, different channels, different ideas. But after we go through this, you'll have a clarity where you can cut through the 80% and get down to the 20% that gives you 80% of the results. That's what you're going to walk through, kind of make it easier to make the decisions and know what you should be focusing on. Is it okay if I do just a quick bio just to tell you why I'm up here, or maybe why you should bother listening? Okay, cool. So I've spent the last 12 years in the sales and marketing field. We work with about 35 different centers across the country, and on average, they see about a 21% increase in revenue in the first year of working with us. As far as my story, I started in marketing and sales. Sold print door to door, like one of those shopper magazines. And loved working with the small business owners, helping them grow, but quickly realized that print probably wasn't the medium that was going to take me where I wanted to go. So I left and started an agency doing kind of what we're doing now. The only downside was I was 20 years old and had no clue what I was doing, and only lasted like 2 years and ended up getting a job in the financial services field. But still felt the call to kind of work with small business owners. And so I ended up leaving my financial services job to start this again, 2.0. And started working with this guy you see here, Dan Mowry, one of my best friends. He bought a center from his family. He was our first client on the second round. And we saw that what we did worked really well for him. He bought his center, I think they were doing around $300,000 when he took over. And today they do over $1.5 million. So we found that what we did works. Because when I started out, I worked with breweries, golf courses, manufacturing, anyone who needed marketing services. But after working with him, and when he bought his second location, I bought a minority stake in that center. So that's when I decided, all right, let's go all in on bowling, and let's be the best in the world at helping them grow. And so that's where we are today. That's how we became Bowling Alley Marketing. So I'd like to start off the content of the presentation with a quick question, because I think a lot of times we look at marketing as like an expense, right? It's a line on the P&L, trying to minimize it, make it smaller, shrink it down. But if you knew you could get $4 back for every dollar you spent, how would that change the way you viewed it? Do you still try to spend as little as possible, or do you look at it a little bit differently and maybe, want to put potentially more in to get that money back? And that's just kind of what the frame of today, even just for this, 90 minutes or so, just to kind of think of it that way. But moving into today's consumer, who wants to take a guess on how many hours the average person spends a day on their phone? Let's hear some numbers.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
4 hours.
4, 5,
17.
17. You might be onto something. So believe it or not, the big bar right there is 5 to 6. And so that means that 80% of people are on their phone 3 hours a day or more every day. And so, sometimes we can think like, oh, that's terrible. This is people aren't doing what they used to do. Maybe that's where some of our youth leagues went. They're on their phones. But I like to look at it as an opportunity, right? If that's where 80% of the people are 3 hours a day, then where do we want to focus our efforts to get in front of them, to bring them into our center? Probably on their phone, right? Exactly. It becomes an opportunity. So the way we do that is with the 3 different ways to grow. So who here wants to name at least 1 or 2 of the ways that you can grow a bowling center? Because there's only 3. Everything boils down to these 3 buckets. More customers, that's one of them.
Raise price.
Raise price, yep.
Lower your expense.
What is it?
Lower your expense.
So that would be for profit,
Okay.
for on the revenue side.
Revenue.
But yeah, you'll raise profit that way. So the last one is just to get them to come in more frequently. So you can increase your average ticket, like you said, raise price, and that could be adding another product line, or it could be creating a package. You just want them to spend more. So that's the first one. Second one is getting them to come into more often. So more, usually on an annual basis we look at it, because typically it's 1 to 2 times a year. And then obviously new customers is the third way. So I like to lay that out because, like I talked about, the clarity. Like everything that we do boils down to one of those 3 ways that we're growing the business. And so jumping into the average ticket, like we said, raising prices is the first one, but you could also add a product line. Say you add laser tag or arcade or food and beverage. That's going to get them to spend more money every time they come in. But my favorite one is actually creating a package of multiple product lines. Who here does like a family value package or something where they put 2 or 3 things together for a special? Those probably do really well, right? People love it. It's a good value. They come out just for that. I would argue that that's the best way you can increase their average ticket. It gives them a more complete experience at your center. So instead of them coming and trying one thing and leaving and just thinking of you in that box of the one thing, instead they get 2 or 3 different touch points, and you can connect on multiple levels. You can also appeal to more people because they come for that one thing, but you have more things to offer. You can cast a wider net. So if you guys want to learn more about this or hear more about it, this is Brandon from Hound. They used to be FetchRev. They're in like 1,000 different centers. We went deep into the experience economy, what people are looking for today. And so that's on our podcast. Speaking of which, you might recognize this guy.
Sweet.
This is our, here's a screenshot. So
Like Bernie Sanders. Hail the can from all.
I think you were talking about that on it. But anyway, we do a weekly podcast talking to guys like Don and others who've been in the industry figures to learn what's working today. And so if you guys are interested in that, we do it every week. It's called Striking Success. It's on YouTube and Spotify. Okay. As far as increasing average frequency, does anyone track their average frequency, like how many times someone comes in per year? Do they have an idea? So basically, you're just doing the total number of visits you receive. The easiest way is with your POS. You can just see the total number of transactions divided by the total number of credit cards or customers, however you segment it. And that's your average frequency. So on average, we see about 1.5 to 2 times per year for the average center is how often people come in. Some people are surprised by that because they're thinking, wait, I have league people who come in, 30 times a year. But for every one of those league people, you have 10 or 15 or 20 different, open play bowlers who come in once every other year. So on average, it's 1.5 to 2 times a year. So sure, that's great. We want to know what that is so we can measure it and try to increase it. But at the end of the day, the real reason is because imagine if we got them to come in 1 or 2 extra times per year. That's like the whole business, right? That could be, say you get 30% of people to come in 1 extra time a year. Imagine what that would do for your bottom line. Because these are customers who already know what you have, they like you, they come in. So just to get them to come back 1 extra time, and half the time they just need a reason. We just need to reach out to them and give them a reason to come. So this is like what I think is the low-hanging fruit. And that's why I go over these first, because we'll get to new customers. But I think studies say it's like 6 times harder. When we have perfectly good customers, we can just get them coming 1 extra time. Like I said, easier to get them to come back in. So what I found, the number one way that you can get customers to come back in and to increase your average frequency is to get a CRM or a database. Who here uses one? Database. You guys use it pretty frequently, you just kind of have one, and I know you guys definitely have one, right? So this is the number one thing. The reason why you can organize your customer data, especially interactions, you can take notes on people. So like if you have like a lot of events business and you have multiple people trying to coordinate, you can list the notes on there. You can take all those different lists that you have floating around that you kind of know where they are, but you don't know where they are, and put them into one spot. You can automate a lot of stuff for communication, like when people apply to a job or they apply to have a party or a birthday party, you can automate a lot of that stuff. That kind of correspondence is the same questions you're answering over and over again. You can take care of those. You can collect and customer data and build the database, make it bigger, and because long term, that's where a lot of the value is going to come from for your center. And then communicate with them to get them to come back in, mostly for free. So text messages, there's a minimal cost, but email's free. Whereas everything else that we talk about like Google and Facebook and all these other platforms, you gotta pay for those. Whereas once you have these people's information, you can talk to them all you want. As long as they don't tell you to leave them alone. But we'll get to that. The other piece they can help you with is gaining insight into attribution. I don't know if you guys have ever heard the old marketing idiom that 50% of my marketing works, I just don't know which 50%, right? So using some data and being able to track some of this, you can start to get some breadcrumbs about what's actually working so you know what to put more money towards. So as far as choosing one, there's hundreds of different options. We're pretty agnostic. We use one called Go High Level, but it doesn't really matter. As long as you have one and you actually use it, that's the important piece. But if you're thinking about getting one or you're thinking about switching, these are the items that you should really look for to have in your CRM. So obviously contact management, we talked about. You should have some kind of intake system, whether it's like a landing page or a form, so you can get more people into your system to grow it. You should be able to communicate. Obviously, almost all of them have email, but SMS is the big one you want to make sure it has. You want a scheduling element. So be able to set appointments for yourself, whether it's for like candidates coming in or people who want to have parties, they can self-schedule. Just think about how much time do we waste trying to pick a time? What's good for you, what's good for me? Trying to, you go through 3 different rounds just to set the appointment. Whereas with something like this, you can cut right through it. Some of the more premium ones, you can have automations where you can take an action or they take an action, and you automatically, the system will take several different actions out after that. So like if they apply to have an event or a party, it'll follow up with them. And if they don't say anything, it'll drip on them. Hey, are you still interested? Do you want to have an event spaced out over a few days? Because a lot of times they get busy, they miss one email, and they forget about the whole thing. Some of the nicer ones will have that. And then like we talked about, some kind of reporting or attribution you want to make sure you have, so you know what's working. So as far as getting the contacts into your database, pretty easy to start out. You get your email lists. Who here has like a bunch of lists just floating around, you know, different various Google Drives or emails. You know they're out there, but you don't know where. So this is your opportunity to just dump them all in one spot and know where it's at every time. So you start by importing your email lists or Kids Bowl free. I think that's the best thing about Kids Bowl free. Sure, getting them in for free, you know, during the summer is great, but that database is really where the value comes. You got your league lists. Those are your most frequent customers. You want to really take care of them. You can put them in there. And then any other lists that you have. If you have like a MailChimp, or a lot of times people will switch from different email services and they'll have a list floating out somewhere. Just grab them all, put them in one spot. Targeted landing pages. So this is a page where it's going to be one purpose you're going to be looking at. So the key with these pages is not to just, when they click on an ad or they click on an email, not send them to your homepage, because there's 50 different things for them to do on your homepage and they're going to get lost. And they're not going to take the action you want them to. They're going to end up clicking on About Us, or they get distracted. Whereas this, the only thing you can do on this page is read about the benefits of having a birthday party with them and fill out the information. We have a logo at the top. The logo doesn't even go anywhere. The only thing they can do is either leave the page or fill out the form, which is really critical. The other one is Wi-Fi units. So does anyone use the Wi-Fi to collect emails right now? Anybody using one? What do you guys use?
The Wi-Fi company,
Yeah.
Bailey.
Oh, the Wi-Fi, okay. And then what do you guys?
That's the same one.
Same one. Do you guys like that one?
Yeah, I would never use the name.
No, you do.
but-
Okay. But yeah, you got some of them, right? Now you have a place to dump them. So any of them are good. We use Hound, again, the guy that you saw up there. It's like 30 or 40 bucks a month. It's not expensive. You can collect a couple hundred names every month just in exchange for Wi-Fi. They give their email or their phone number and their name, and now you're building your list all the time. It's a pretty good exchange, right? They get free Wi-Fi that you're paying for, the bandwidth, and in exchange, you just want a contact name. And then the last one is a website pop-up. This is a layup, really easy one. Put one tiny piece of code on your website, and it looks like this. Make sure to give them a good offer to join like the VIP list. So typically it's 2 free games or free game and shoes, whatever you want to give them. Obviously, the better your offer, the more signups you're going to get. But something that costs you virtually nothing, and now you get to communicate with them. And if there's someone who's interested, they've said that they're interested because they're willing to hop in. So that's how we can get them in. Once they're in, as far as talking to them, it's really down to email and text. Who here is right now doing like an email newsletter? Anybody, like regularly? No? That's a good one to start. So you can start with monthly, and then maybe work up to every other week. Past that, I find that it doesn't help as much because they tend to get lost. But while email, 20% open rate is good, so that means 80% aren't reading it. SMS, you can see here 98% of people read text. So if you want to get into something where they actually read it and they're going to see the message, start texting them. The key with text is you have to keep it personal. So in the next slide, I'm going to show you kind of how we do that. But if you think about who is texting you, it's your family and your friends, right? And maybe colleagues, hopefully. And so if you just come in as a company and you're saying, hey, buy my stuff, they're going to be like, get out of here. You're spam, unsubscribe, stop, whatever it is. We kick you out. So it's really critical that you come in and you try to come in and appear like one of those friends or family. I'm going to show you guys how you can do that. But it's also great for like reviews. So do you guys ask for reviews much at all? Where you say, hey, leave us a review if you had a positive experience. So the SMS works well because, again, with one of these automations, you can ask them how their experience was, 1 to 5. And based off their answer, you can text them back different stuff. So if they say a 2, you probably don't want to send them the form to leave you a 2-star review or a 1-star review, right? And can bomb us. So if they say, anywhere from 1 to 3, you could send them over to a feedback form and say, sorry to hear that, how can we do better? They get their, blow off their steam, you get some good feedback. But if they say a 4 or 5, then you can send them over to actually leave the review. That's going to help your ratio. So all through SMS. Because again, emails only get open 20% of the time, at best. So this is that campaign I was talking about. So using the software we have, and I would say out of all the things we're going to go over today, this is probably the most powerful campaign that you can run. So kind of like you're thinking like, what the heck is this? This is what it looks like in the software. So at the top, you see that SMS. That's a text that goes out and says, so a great example of this would be if we're launching a social league. We've used this very successfully. Say, hey, put their first name. Hey, John, this is, Jeff from ABC Bowl. Wanted to know if you want to start having some fun on Fridays this summer. Yes or no? Let us know. And depending on what they say back, it'll give them a whole different experience. If they say no, it's just, no worries, hope to see you again sometime soon. And that's it. And it felt like someone just invited them. They said, no, I'm too busy, all good. If they say nothing, we don't say anything either, it ends. But if they say yes, then they start getting details about the league. Awesome, it says, hey, great, we're going to be holding this Average Joe's League on Wednesday nights. It's going to be at this time, and then wait 30 seconds so that it feels like someone's typing it and not just one long block. Wait a few seconds. The next one's, here's some of the fun stuff you can expect. We'd love to see you out there. Wait another minute and say, oh, by the way, I forgot to send you the link. Here's where you can sign up. And so they think it feels just like a personal friend or family member just reached out and invited them to this. And we see the conversion rate skyrocket from that. And we get very few people that say stop, unsubscribe, because they opted in. They said yes. So if you could take away one thing to try in your center, it's like powerful, I would say this is the one. So I went through all this. It has to feel personal. Use colloquial language. Don't be like, like a college essay. Keep it just like you would talk. Add the delays in between multiple texts. Don't do one long block. You just have to use them sparingly. This isn't something you would use every week. This is once a month, every other month, once a quarter, something like that. Save it for like when you really want to move the needle, something important coming up like a league or a big event, like a tournament. That's where you would use that. So now let's say we get some leads coming in from some of the stuff that we're doing. How do we avoid dropping the ball and just letting them fade into the wind? I don't know if you guys ever seen that famous internet video of the raccoon with the cotton candy, and he goes to wash it and it just dissolves out of his hands. It's gone forever. We don't want to be like that. So you said you were using a CRM, correct?
The CRM?
Yeah, you said you use like a database, right?
Something.
Or did I get that wrong?
You got that wrong.
Okay, here is using one. Sorry. I saw we had two hands earlier on in the beginning. Database they're using.
We have the BPA,
Okay,
but
sure.
but we haven't had much success using it, mostly because complications training people and
Yeah. Okay. Well, so we can run through this example. I just want to get a sense of your response rate to leads. So if someone says, hey, I want to have a party or an event, how long does it typically take you to get back to them with an answer? Hey, we got your request, we'll be in touch.
because it's me about 8 hours.
8 hours. Okay, and then that's pretty typical, usually 4 hours to a day. And then if you reach out to them and they don't get back to you, how many times do you reach out further?
Don't.
0.
Zero.
Again, very common. Do you know what your metrics are? Like how many leads come in, how many you contact, how many you schedule? Okay.
No. Yeah.
Again, yeah. You're in the majority of it. And then after an event, do you send a follow-up email? Like, how was your experience? You leave us a review. Maybe ask them to book for next year.
You know,
These are good things because this is opportunity, right? This means you have a lot of events that are just waiting to happen. So, but the question I wanted to ask for everybody is that if 80% of it was automated, how many of you guys would do a lot more of that kind of stuff? Right? If it was just happened for you automatically when you say the event is had and they just roll into some points like that. Probably a lot more. And that's the power of the CRM or the software to kind of do this heavy lifting for you, to have a good one. And the reason I bring a lot of this early stuff up, like how long it takes you to get in contact with them and the attempts, is because Harvard Business Review did a study where they looked at how long it took businesses to get in touch with their leads and what the percentage of contact was, so how likely they were to get in touch with them. And you probably can't see it because it's too small, but you see where that big cliff, looks like one of these mountains out here, kind of falls off? That's in 10 minutes. So 90% within 10 minutes, after that it falls off the cliff. And yeah, 10 minutes could be, kind of daunting, right? We're running the centers, we're not waiting by the phone all day, but what if you had a system that texted them automatically for you? You said, hey, we got your request, we're gonna be in touch with you, within the next 4 hours or whatever it is. In the meantime, you can book a appointment here to talk about your event in this calendar. Feels like someone's very responsive, they're right there, you're gonna get in touch with these people. And so then the second one, the second two charts there are about the attempts. So it shows how many attempts to get to 90% contact rate. And so what they're showing is that it takes 6 attempts to get a 90% contact rate. But if we're going back to our objective reality, most people quit after 1. And you see the bottom one is how many people actually do for attempts. So again, there's a huge opportunity there of just the follow-up, right? If we can set some of this stuff to be automatic, if we're not the ones doing it, then it can actually happen. There's a lot of business on the table. It's just getting people to come back in. So I'm a big believer in action because I think the world belongs to the action takers. And if it's just me talking to you guys for 90 minutes and nothing happens, then I don't feel like there wasn't a lot of value that I was able to give you guys. So let's take a second to think about what we're going to take from this. And I'd like to hear maybe 1 or 2 takeaways that you guys think. Maybe texting, maybe we need to get a CRM, maybe just that there's 3 ways to grow a business. What are some of your top takeaways? Go ahead.
The reactivation campaign. I've never heard.
Okay,
So, yeah, that's really interesting.
we've got one lined up for you.
Just the overall feel that you can do some things that would increase your sales.
Yeah, like it's possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
Maybe we fail miserably with our database managing it. I can collect all this data, but as far as updating it, keeping it current,
Yeah.
keeping it viable, we're the center that's going to send the one that's 8 months pregnant, invitation to the big thing because we haven't built a strong enough relationship to recognize them for life is changing.
Right.
So we fail at like updating.
It's like weeding, right? You can always keep up with it, But again, it's having someone, but someone has to, dedicate time to it. So that's a good one. Anybody else?
That's the biggest thing is dedicating time to it.
Time. Yeah, that's really fun. So anything that we're going to implement, those are really good takeaways. I don't want to bunch of them. So I'm going to give you some more stuff. So we'll have some things to implement. Now we're going to get to everybody's favorite. So I like to start with those 2 because we tend to think of this first. Like whenever I ask about the 3 ways to grow, usually new customers is the first one to be spoken. But those 2 I think are the biggest opportunities. Like the increase your average ticket you could do on the way home, right? You could come with a package on the way home and start offering that increase your average ticket. Getting people to come back, it's a lot easier than getting people to come the first time. But this is where we really have a much bigger opportunity in the long run. It's getting new customers in. Because if we're being honest, we probably market, if we do market, to the same 500 to 1,000 people, right? Same people who get our newsletter or are on our Facebook page. They see our signage on the inside, the posters and stuff. It's the same people over and over. But if we want to get like new customers in with like some decent volume, it's going to take a lot more people to be marketed to. Because remember, those are your customers who come in already, they know you. These are people who don't know who you are. They might be in your town and they've never even heard that they have a bowling center in their town. So we got to get in front of a lot of them. And so when we approach getting new customers, we like to look at it in 2 different perspectives. You have your needs type of sale and your wants type of sale. So that's really where the fulfilling demand and creating demand comes through. I'll explain further. So fulfilling demand is people who already want what you have, is the best way to put it. So say you have a mother whose son's birthday is coming up in 2 months. She wants to book him a party. She's going to have a party for him. Whether it's with you or someone down the street or at their house, that party is happening one way or another. We want to make sure that we're the first option that comes up for that party, because that business is happening. It's low-hanging fruit. We don't have to convince her to have a party. So that's what we call high intent. So we're just fulfilling the demand that's already there. There's a pocket of people at any one point already want what we have. We just need to make sure we're in front of them to get that business. Does anyone know what SEO stands for? You do? Go ahead. Exactly. Search engine optimization. So getting ranked in Google is basically what it is. And so I'm going to tell you why that's important. Because there's 8 billion searches a day. So when that mother goes to book a birthday party for her son, what does she do? She goes into Google and types in birthday party places near me, right? And whoever comes up in the first 3 results, they get the bids, and they get the parties. Usually the first person to respond out of those 3 gets the party, for being honest. You don't have to convince her. She's going to go somewhere. If it's not you, it's a competitor. And so I'm going to try to break this down because SEO, we could spend the next 4 days talking about that. I don't think that's relevant here. I just want to explain at a very high level how it works. So Google's goal, and the reason they are the #1 in search by a mile, there's no one even close, is because they are the best at giving answers to their users' questions. And so when the mother types in birthday party places near me, that's actually a question. It's like, where should I take my son for a birthday party? And you want to become the best answer to that. So that you are at the top, and they're going to serve you as the answer if you are the best answer for the question. And the way that we do that is on-site, and that's actually, believe it or not, Google doesn't know what your website is about. You have to tell them. And you tell them through the keywords on your website. So if you want them to consider you in the race for best birthday party places in your town, you need to make sure the birthday parties are on your website. Otherwise, they have no idea. So the first step you need to do is make a list of all the keywords that you want to rank for, whether it's corporate event space or birthday party venues or sports bar near me, whatever you have to offer. Make sure that those keywords are sprinkled out throughout your site. I'll get a little bit later on to maybe some of the spots where, but the first thing you need to do is make sure you have the keywords. That's step #1. Step #2 is, all right, let's say there's 2 people with birthday parties on their website. Who gets to go first? And there's actually a voting system. So the reason that Google took off in the early 90s is because they came up with a very good way, a system that couldn't be rigged or gamed, of deciding who's the most credible or authoritative answer. And it's called PageRank, but basically it works like an election system. So if the local newspaper or a church or one of your vendors or someone links back to your website, in their eyes, that's a vote of confidence. And so the more of those links that you get, the more that you're going to rank over your competitors for those keywords. So social media can provide those, churches can do it, but the more of them you have, think about it, people who have been around in business for a long time, they pick those up over time. They become the most credible. And so those are the 2 steps. Make sure you have the keywords, make sure you get the links to outrank everybody else. There's a third component that's newer, and I would argue is actually becoming as important, if not more important, than your website, and that's your Google My Business profile. Has everyone here claimed their Google Business profile for the listing? Awesome. If you haven't done that, that's the first thing I would do before you guys leave here, is to make sure you claim that. Because 95% of the information that people in Google want when they're looking you up is on that listing. What your hours are, how good your ratings are, how many ratings you have that shows like how many people come through. All that stuff is there. You can post on it. And I suggest that you do, maybe once a week, once a month, just put a post on there, hey, we're still alive. Put on pictures, as people scroll through, they want to see before especially if someone who's never been there, they want to see what it looks like before they get there. They want to know what they're getting into before they make a commitment for their Friday night that they get once a week to have a good time. They want to know what they're getting into. So that's a really important spot. So if you haven't been on Google in the last year, this is what it looks like currently, but I'm going to break down so you know what's happening here. The first one at the top is an ad. You can actually buy that position. It's not that expensive. That's what I'm going to get into next. The next one is the map pack. So if you see, that's where the rubber really meets the road. If you're not in one of those top 3 positions, you're not going to be considered. So it's really critical that you're coming up in those search positions. Below that is actually where the websites are. It's a separate thing. Websites are below that now. So they're important, but not as important as where the Google My Business listings are. As far as putting into practice, this might sound weird, but let's forget about bowling for a second. Because who here is in a town where the one or one of two centers. Pretty much everyone, right? So if I go into Google and type in bowling near me in your town, they're coming up either way. So why bother doubling down or tripling down on something you're going to win anyway? What I suggest is go for the ancillary stuff. Go for the birthday parties, the corporate events, go for sports bar. First of all, more people do those things than bowl. More people eat and drink than bowl. We want them to do both, but it's a wider net if you can rank for those things. Second of all, those are the things you're not ranking for currently. That's your big opportunity. So focus on those. At the end, I'm going to give you guys a way you can get our keyword list. We give it to you for free, the exact one we use, and use it as much as you want and put that on your website. That's the one that we use. So here's where your ranking factors are. Big factor is if your site is mobile friendly. So I don't know if you guys have checked your analytics, like people who visit your website in the last couple of years, but 75, 80% or more of it is now mobile. So if your website isn't optimized for mobile, Google's not going to want to send people to a site that frustrates them and they just leave. That's a sign to them that, hey, this is not a good result. They're not having a good experience. So you want to make sure it's mobile friendly. It also needs to be fast. So if it's a slow site, again, they're going to get frustrated. They're going to leave and be like, this isn't a good answer to my question. So make sure those are in place. And then the rest of these are the content keyword locations. And so like your title tags, meta descriptions, those are all the places that you're going to be putting those keywords in, just sprinkled throughout. And now you don't want it to be keyword soup where it doesn't make any contextual sense. You want to actually write something out and it needs to be meaningful, but make sure that they're located in there somewhere in the mix. And then on the right is the technical items. That's just the way that your website talks to Google. If you're ever having trouble sleeping, just start reading about technical SEO. You'll be out in 10 minutes. So I promised you I'd get to the AdWords. This is that #1 spot at the very top. So you can either earn your way to the top, which is SEO, or you can buy your way to the top. I suggest you do a little bit of both. But what you want to do is save this for your higher ticket items. So you're not going to do this for bowling because it's a lower ticket and you're going to win that anyway. But you would do this for corporate events because that could be a $500, $1,000, $5,000 ticket. It's worth spending $2 or $3 to get that click and get that lead. One of my clients does weddings sometimes, and that's $10,000 event for them. He's willing to pay $5, $10 for that click. So save it for the higher items. You can also use it for things. Think of this as like the lighter fluid, and SEO is like the coals for a fire. You got to spray on more lighter fluid and spend money in advertising, but it's quick, it's immediate. Whereas the SEO is going to take you 6 months, but it's going to build up a nice bed of coals, and it's going to keep burning for a long time. So ideally, you want to use both together. And then the last one is if you do have some competitors in town you're running up against, you can actually buy their name as a keyword and rank first above them. It'll be very frustrating, but it's legit. So the second part about getting new customers is creating demand. And this is where we want to create customers because let's face it, out of the fulfilling demand, like people who want to have a birthday party, like they've already decided, it's a small pool out of all the people. There's only so many people who are in that moment. So we need to supplement that with creating new customers and getting them to want what we have. This is the want side. This is where we have an unlimited market size because if you get good at this, you'll have more customers than you can even fit in your building. So theoretically, it is unlimited size because you can create customers at will. You can just show them how much fun they could have. They say that looks fun, they come in, and you just created new customers. Anybody seen this movie? This is one of my favorites. So if you don't know the plot of this movie, they're trying to sneak into this guy's dreams while he's sleeping and planned an idea to get him to think it was an idea of his own. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because that's exactly what we're trying to do when we're doing advertising for our center. We're trying to plan an idea in their mind to get them to think that looks like a fun place to go. We should go there with our family. Or like, if it's a current customer and they just forgot about you because they go to the same 3 spots and you're just out of the rotation right now, this is a way to get back into that rotation. They're thinking, oh, that looks like fun. Heck, we never go there anymore. And you're just planting that little seed to say, this is like a fun place. We should go there. You hit them on a Thursday afternoon or Friday afternoon, and they're thinking, what am I going to do this weekend? They see a fun ad, of your place, and now they're coming in to try it out. As far as where to start planting these seeds, who here does like the Facebook posts, like once a week or daily or on like the organic ones? Yeah, so we used to do those a lot too, and they used to work pretty well. And when I ask people what they do for marketing, usually that's in the running for the top thing. We have website and Facebook posts. But what we found is that the reach of it started going down. You guys notice that at all? Where like it's like 2 likes, 3 likes, maybe 10 people saw it. So Facebook has a stockholders. You got to hit a profit, so they don't give away the stuff for free as much anymore. So if you think about it, the news feed is their inventory. That's like their version of the bowling lanes. They're not going to give it away for free as much. Maybe a game here or there, but it's less and less. And so we found that it's down to about 2.2% organic reach. So to put that into context, if you have 3,000 followers for your page, 66 people see your post. It's not moving the needle. I always joke it's like a microphone in the desert. It's just not a lot of people are seeing it. So instead, we found that on the paid side, for like a $4 CPM, which is just a fancy way of saying how much it costs you for 1,000 impressions. So $4 equals 1,000 people seeing your ad. $400 gets you 100,000 impressions. And I mean, $400 isn't something to sneeze at, but still, it's not a crazy amount of money to get 100,000 people to see your center. And that's impressions. It could be 30,000 people in your town, but they each see it 3 times. Because we know for someone who doesn't know you, it's going to take multiple times seeing it. But now we can really move the needle. I'm going to show you guys how you can even take that even further in a second. As far as what the ads should look like, that's probably your next question. I was like, all right, what should I actually show them? The number one thing is it needs to look native. If you're putting up flyers or like overly designed graphics or just stuff that they can blatantly tell is an ad, they're just going to scroll right past it. Probably like you guys do when you're scrolling too. You're like, oh, it's an ad, skip, next. But if you can make it look like one of their friends posted it, or it's like, some influencer posted it, they're going to actually watch it. The next thing you really want to pay attention to is video. All these platforms are hungry for video. You see the reels, you see the stories, you see the TikTok, it's all video. That's what these platforms want. So if you do that, you're going to have a nice tailwind with your ads. And we recommend going TikTok style. Right now, we don't do anything actually on TikTok, but we use the format and the style of TikTok because that's what everybody's looking for right now, especially in short form content. So if you want to see what that looks like, it looks something like
Hey,
this.
Billy, here's a fun activity. Bowling at our town alleys. No play activities, laser tag, delicious food, and even a VIP section. Check it out.
So it's quick. It's the vertical. Show them a little bit of what you have to offer. They see this on Friday night, and no, let's check that out. Just really quick and fun. The captions are nice. You can put that at the top, and then some music behind them. The other one we've seen a lot of success with is YouTube. Has anyone here tried YouTube before for their center? I haven't found anyone who's done it yet, so you're not alone. But the reason it works so well is just so few local businesses do it. Think about when's the last time you saw a local business on YouTube? These are the pre-roll ads where you have to watch the first 5 seconds, then you can skip it. And it's all national brands, but they're not expensive and anybody can do it. And so a lot of times when we do these, we'll just put a pin on the center address, go for a radius of 15 miles, and anyone within 15 miles of the center will be served the ad when they watch a video. But because there's such a shock factor, like, oh wow, I know these guys. This is like in our town, I know this place. We'll see sometimes a 60% view rate, where 60% of people don't click the skip. They watch the whole thing for 30 seconds. And it's not expensive. It's 2 to 3 cents per view. And you only pay when they watch it. So they're pretty affordable. So this is what one of those would look like. This is a client in Wisconsin. It's like a fun spot, right? some good food. So this is going to be like more like a horizontal video, be a little bit longer, and you have a little more space typically for these. So that's YouTube. As far as targeting, so this is how we can, who we're actually showing the ads to, because we do 100,000 impressions, but we don't have to just show it to anybody. We actually get to pick. So there's 3 different ways you can target. The first one is demographics and interest. People based off their age or their gender or their interests, like if they, you can go off of like Storm Bowling or Brunswick, Sam Adams. People who have liked anything from them, you can target them specifically. Because Facebook keeps track. If you like something, they know you liked it, they keep track of all that. It's a good start, but what I really like is the lookalike audience. So if you're creating a database, which you should be, you can actually upload it to Facebook, and they will match the emails and phone numbers they have on file for their users, and they draw a line, and you can say, show me more people, or show my ads to people who look just like my current customers. And instead, like a billboard, where you're showing your ad to everybody who drives by, it's not discerning. You're only showing this to people who are a good match for your center. And this, I don't know about, this blew my mind when I first figured this out for Facebook ads, because you're so targeted, your ROI goes through the roof because you're only going to good prospects. So this is really my favorite. And once I learned this, that's when we actually started using the Facebook ads, because just showing it to anybody doesn't get very far. I think that's what happens a lot of times. You just boost a post and it doesn't do much because it's just going to everybody. Whereas if we get really targeted and we let Facebook's algorithms or AI, because they know everything about us, all the interactions we do, they log. They know how to create different connections that we would never think of. They can kind of do the Venn diagram and find these weird little commonalities, and they'll exploit those to show our ads to the right people. And that's how you can really capitalize on this stuff. And then the last one is a saved audience. So say someone likes your video or watches it, goes to your website, any of that stuff, you can actually kind of put a stamp on them like a nightclub and retarget and follow them around a little bit. Because they're obviously interested, they've taken steps. So that's targeting. I don't want to go too far into that because it gets a little bit in the weeds, but that's pretty much what we look for. So again, let's take a minute, because I just went through a lot of stuff, and take a second to do some takeaways, because learning requires behavioral change. I heard a story like, someone shows you a red card and gives you a slap, shows you a red card, gives you a slap. If you don't duck on that 3rd time, you haven't learned anything. So what are we going to change in our behavior or implement in our center to actually capitalize on this stuff? I'd love to hear some takeaways. Google, for the search on the SEO side, yeah. They're doing it no matter what, right? Video, yeah. And in the next section, I'm going to show you guys how you can do that easily, because it can be tough. Who else is a good one? I know we're sitting on some nuggets here. Let's get one more.
The targeted, the fact that you can find the customer.
Yeah, you have a lot of control. So I didn't put it in here, but a lot of times we do the boosted posts. There's a separate ad manager in the back end where you can do all that stuff. The boosted post doesn't have as much. It's kind of like the beginner level or the easy level, because the other one's a little more complicated, but that's where all those options are. So it's in a separate field. Awesome. So now let's talk about tying it all together, how we can take those 3 different ways to grow our center, make a few tweaks on it, and see what that actually looks like from a revenue standpoint. I think you might be a little bit surprised. So this is another thing that I'm going to give out at the end, one of our freebies. This is just a spreadsheet calculator. You guys can play with it because everybody's numbers are different, right? How many customers we're going to get. So you can scale this up or down depending on the size of your center. Just fill out the cells. But for this example, I wanted to use a $40 average ticket, an average frequency of 1.75. And so if you get 1,000 customers in a month to spend an extra $5, they're coming anyway. We all have plenty of customers coming in. Giving them to spend $5 extra a month when they come in gets you an extra $5,000 a month. Fairly simple, right? If you can get all your customers to come in, they all come in once or twice a year, get them to come in one extra time a year, and you get 125 of them to do that, there's a second $5,000 a month in revenue. And the last one is just 125 new customers. Not a crazy amount, just 125 people to come in and try your center for the first time, or the first time in a long time. there's your third $5,000. Who wouldn't mind an extra 15 grand a month in revenue, right? And it's nothing crazy, just a few tweaks, but it adds up when we start to do these things. So you're probably wondering, like you said, the video, how do we actually get that video? Who here is like trying to get their employees to do it, or you try to go on the camera and your photo ability, like me, it sucks, you're not good at taking pictures. Exactly, so if you've thought of any of these things before, then I have something that's gonna be very helpful for you that was gonna take care of all of this one time. So this is a client we have in Idaho, Snake River Bowl, and they did this and it came out beautifully. They're a perfect example of it because we're in Pennsylvania, so I can't hire a local photographer that I know to go and do it. A lot of the ones in Pennsylvania, I know someone, but he's all the way in Idaho, and so he was able to do this. So really quick 5 steps. So it's 5 years of content. As long as you don't do any major renovations, then you gotta update. 5 years of photo and video in 5 hours, like of total time, and it's gonna be in 5 steps. So the first thing you need is a shot list. If you want ours, there's gonna be a spot at the end, just text me, I'll give it to you. But this is a list of all the different things you want photos of. If you have a great arcade, you have a specialty drink or really good pizza, or a nice concourse, everything that you want to take a picture of, kids having a nice birthday party or adults at a corporate event, all those things we want to take a inventory of. Because what happens is, photographer shows up, it's Friday night, you're busy, everything that you were thinking about goes out the window, and you don't remember it until you get the photos 3 weeks later. And you're like, shoot, why didn't we get a picture of that? And then now you have to do the whole thing over again and spend all that money. But if you just take some forethought, list everything out, and we have our list, I'll give it to you, but add anything else you can think of so that it's all there, you won't forget. Second thing you gotta do is get a photographer. So I recommend getting someone who's like a pro. I'm not talking about like a National Geographic photographer, like someone who's just like decent with a camera. Like they're the person you would say, hey, you always ask them to take the photo of the group. You just need to be decent, because this is social media content. And honestly, if you get stuff that's like too professional, it actually works against you, because it looks like an ad. It looks too perfect. So just get someone who's decent. Usually we'll go on Upwork, which is like a freelancer website. You just get a couple bids. We also go on Google Maps, type in photographers, and then get like 3 or 4 bids. And whoever has the lowest one we go with. If you can't find a photographer, you can get a friend, like a niece, 16-year-old niece who's good on Instagram or TikTok, I guess. They can do it too. It's not going to be quite as good, but it's still better than nothing. Because to do this stuff we're talking about, to run ads, you have to have content. You can't just put text in there. So like this is like square one. So if we have to use a family or friend, so be it. And then we use a guy, like I said, in Pennsylvania, Nathan Neary. We'll probably fly him out here. He's usually $1,200 or so, but if I were anyone who comes from us, he does it for $400. So with the flight and stuff, it might be worth it for you guys. But I always throw him out there because he does all of ours and it always comes out really well. Because he's done so many now, he's crisp. But no matter what it is, whoever you use, you got to have a photographer. Don't try to do it yourself. We're not photographers, we're providers. Next thing you need to do is pick an evening. I recommend an evening that's about 75 to 90% capacity. If you go on your busiest night, you're going to be in the weeds. You're not going to be able to help them. Your employees aren't going to be able to help them. And they're just going to be on their own because you're going to be too swamped. So pick a night that's busy so it looks good, like it creates a nice impression, like it's not dead all the time. But not so busy that you can't help them create some shots. Because they'll come up with creative stuff, or you got to come over here and take a picture of this, or you ask the family, you got to help facilitate if possible. And then the fourth step is walking through your center. So even with our shot list and all the ideas that came up with, we're still gonna come up with a few ideas on the fly as we walk by or see a cool opportunity or a cool shot. Like is there a nice party going on? Like, oh, that'd be a great shot. So walk them through and just show them all the different things that your center has to offer so you can get it, because we wanna get everything we can out of this 4-hour block. So it's 1 hour of prep, 4 hours of photo shoot, and you're good for 5 years. So we wanna get as much as we can. So just help them walk through. And then the last step, this is probably the most important step, because if you don't do this step, the other 4 before it will be for nothing. So, and I've learned this from doing it the hard way, just so you guys know. Some of the photographers are like the artist type, and they see themselves as artists, and they want to send you 20 perfect best pictures that they can take in 4 hours. And for a lot of people, that is what they want. Like if you're doing a photo shoot with your family, you want the best pictures to come out, but that's not what we're looking for here. We're looking for volume. So you got to tell them up front, here's what I want. I want all the raw video, all the photos, as many as you can, unedited. And if they want to just only give you a few, it's not worth your time or theirs. So ask for all. Tell them you want like more than 100 pictures. You want volume, all of it. And then have them put it into like a Google Drive or a folder and just dump all of it in there. Because what we really want is a repository. We want, if we decide we want to run ads about birthdays, we can just go to our repository, go through the clips and find a couple pictures or video clips that match what we're talking about. And now we have 5 years worth of content. If they only send us 20 pictures, we can't really do a whole lot with that. So just make sure that they're aware with that. Because sometimes they'll push back and say, that's not how I work. Just move on. There's plenty of other people out there. So really, really critical point. That one wasn't on my original list, and I learned that the hard way. So getting back to our first question, which is now our final question. You know, if we could get $4 back for every dollar we spend in our marketing, how might we think about that a little bit differently? If we knew it was consistent, we knew it was attributable, you know, we knew that when we spend money, we get more people and more business. How would that change? And what if it was 10? Because 4 is on the first visit. They come in once, you got a new customer, they spend money, but when they come back again and again and again, that's when that dollar turns into 10. You get the repeat customers. So maybe instead of spending, we might be looking at investing our marketing dollars. Any questions on this stuff so far? I know we covered a lot in a little bit of time.
I just wanted to make a comment. When you were talking about photographers, for you all that are in the smaller towns, and sometimes it might be, you know, you want things to be cost effective. What I've tapped into before is just reaching out to the high schools, because you have photography classes and the kids do an excellent job. I mean, that is their responsibility. They may be journalists, whatever it may be. So you can definitely tap into them and utilize their services.
The video you guys saw, the YouTube one at the center in Wisconsin, that was his 16-year-old son who did that. We edited it, but he did the filming.
Go through Google. Go again. They do a photo shoots, and so we're scheduling that. Plans. We're going to get some good content done.
Yeah. How much do they charge for it? Because usually $300 to $500 is the average.
Free for a year, sir.
Oh, nice.
So once a year.
Yeah. Yeah, so just take them through this process, because when they show up, they don't, yeah. They don't know what they're looking for.
That, for us, that's the takeaway, is now we know what
you need to do
before he comes.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we would have scheduled him for like 11 o'clock in the morning, and that's not what we wanted. We wanted him there at night on Friday night.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. The prep is really where all the work is. Pre-production is what they call it. That's where all the,
And having a list of the things.
yeah.
we want.
Yeah, because they don't know. They go into different businesses every day. They don't know. So when you tell them, here's what we want, you can get a much better result.
Yes, I'll do this.
At the end, I'm going to send it to you guys. Everybody gets it. The other thing, there's a question that I didn't include in here, but I should address, is that you don't have to have waivers signed. There's an expectation that they're in public, so you don't have to do one. If they ask not to be in the shot, then we obviously respect their wishes, but you don't have to get waivers. Because I've had to fight photographers on that too. There's a reasonable expectation of being in public, so you're good on that.
Do you use any of the BPA content bank, or is that not personal?
I like that they have that out there. It's an option, but for a lot of stuff we're doing, the customers know it's not the center.
Right.
If you don't have anything, it's better than nothing, but it's kind of sterile and static. They know that that's not the center. And it looks nice, it's pretty, but there's no connection.
GoDaddy will just automatically takes pictures for certain stuff. I
Yeah.
monitor everything they put out. It's just like, they had a barbecue grill and something.
Right.
For family night. I was like, oh, why?
Yeah, and then people come in asking about the barbecue.
What do with us?
Yeah, they're like, where's the barbecue?
So,
So yeah, I avoid it whenever possible. If we have to, we can. sometimes like brochures and print, where it's like high production, you can use it in there, but for this type of stuff, avoid it as much as possible. Your website.
I was just wondering what your experience was.
About CRM and specifically go high level.
Yeah.
So we have Toast at US, and they have a loyalty program function where you get points. But what are some other systems to build loyalty program? For instance, we're up in Summit, and so we get a lot of
Right.
tourists.
Yeah.
So I want to do something where the locals, like a locals club, so locals can get like a lower rate
Right.
than tourists. How would like, can you get any advice on how to track that?
I would almost look like a membership. Something super low cost, like, hey, it's $20 for the year or something like that. But you're entered into this, you get all these deals now, and they have a card or something that they show. Make it easy.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Because it's probably not going to be a huge amount of people, right? Like
Well, yeah, I mean,
less than, like more than 1,000. Yeah. So it'd be easy to just have like a card.
that's about that too.
They just buy the card at the beginning of the year, right?
Right. So so we use a reservation system right now that people can go online and make reservations. When they fill out the forms on Go High Level, you have to have somebody actually like call them and set it up.
Yeah.
Are you guys working on any sort of integration with reservation system?
We can look at an API because again, High Level is a third party, and they have some APIs. We could probably make a connection. We just got to see what software you guys use again.
So we have 7 rooms right now,
Okay.
but we're looking at switching to alley track.
Okay. So I have an appointment with Chris, right? Next week. We're trying to do some stuff like that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so
I'll get closer to that.
I have another question about so kids bowl free. That's something that we don't offer right now. How does that work? And how are you like just have people sign up? You mentioned about importing contacts and you mentioned kids bowl free. So how if you just have them fill out information?
So they have a program. Who here does Kids Bowl free? So you can ask these guys because
So when they go in to sign their kids up, it takes the parents' information and their phone number, their email address, and then they actually pull the database and they'll send you a report with all the information of everybody that's signed up.
How much is Kids Bowl free now?
600.
We decided that it wasn't cost effective for us anymore. Yeah, we decided.
It's about 50-50. We have 50% love it, 50% hate it.
We were out of it for a while. Got back in.
What we saw was we were in Kids Bowl free in the very beginning, and we started out as same thing in the gym. We did the 1 game per day, and then Kids Bowl free came in, and so we got more kids coming in, and then we said, well, we can do it ourselves. And so we were giving away 2 games free, but it just went down and kept going down. And then we got back into Kids Bowl free.
Because they market it.
Email blasts. Yeah, they do all those email
And they
blasts.
do ads too.
It just
Well, we marketed it a lot too. It's like the kids come in at the end of the school year with their school and stuff. If you
Yeah.
pass out the cards like crazy, we had them out. We just verbally advertised it and the cards everywhere. And I'm meeting my goal. I'm beating it from last year, so that's my goal this year.
you got to go.
We
So
did.
how much lift do you find from it? Like how many of the parents are actually bowling? Because that was, it was a 2-part phase for us where it was like, okay, I'm not sure that it's where we want to spend our marketing money when Facebook ads were, to your point, pretty inexpensive. And we didn't see a noticeable lift with peripheral bowlers. We had a lot of kids, we had a lot of this, we had a lot of that, but we didn't notice a significant lift in the summer. We did a lot better creating a league.
Last year, we seen a lot more parents just bringing kids in and
Yeah.
having them bowl and then leaving. This year, we're seeing a lot of parents
Yeah, it's not a
bowling with
nursery.
them, bowling with them and then staying and eating.
Oh, that's
Bringing
nice.
them in and
I found that a lot of it comes down to your area. If it's a little bit more affluent area, then the parents pay for stuff. If it's less affluent, then that's where you get kind of the free load.
And like for us, we did it for like 8 years before we stopped using Kids Bowl Free. And the biggest reason we got out of Kids Bowl Free is because they expected it to be free.
Yeah.
And, you know, they push, you know, the upselling and all of that stuff. The folks that we were getting into the center were not at all interested in being upsold anything, and nor were they joining anything else. You know, it was
It was a daycare for us.
Exactly.
that's exactly what it was for
And
us.
so, again, the guy in Wisconsin I showed you, he created his own program where they buy a membership for the summer. It's like $200 for the whole family, and he said that weeds out all the bottom feeders.
Oh, absolutely.
He helps you guys create it. Like Mark Bears or Mars, it's about 25
We
centers.
charge for the shoes too, so
Yeah.
we get the shoe.
And some people will do a $5 charge, like a game, where they put a fee for it, and that helps too. Because
we-
you'll get that.
We did that as well. We charged for shoes and we got blasted. I mean, like, you had this mom at the counter just like, well, this is supposed to be free, and you know, like our counter people
It is free.
absolutely hated it. I
Yeah.
mean,
So, yeah.
They were like-
50% of people love it, 50% of people hate it.
they're like, don't put me on an open bowling shift where Kids Bowl Free is. Seriously, I mean,
Yeah.
that's so bad.
I love seeing
I don't know whether that's the difference
In
between a
market.
big city,
It is.
It is.
absolutely-
In a small community center,
rural area with 12,000 people. in it.
Yeah. That seems to be the only commonality I could find.
Yeah.
When they try and scam the system, you know, they bring in their daycare and they're trying to get the kids. This is
We
not
did,
worth
we
it.
did see some of that at the very beginning that we explained to them right away that, you know, we're not doing this for your business, we're doing this for the kids. And actually out of that, we ended up picking up 2 daycares out of that come
Oh,
out
cool.
once a week.
Yeah.
Because they understood.
So yeah, it's something you could check out.
And I'll add one last one. It was different before COVID.
Uh,
Once we came back from COVID, I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but we were so busy that the last thing we want to do is give away lanes.
Right.
You know, and so that's been a big thing. And also,
Yeah.
Kids Bowl Free was very aggressive during COVID,
Right.
which really upset us because they were out there promoting Kids Bowl Free to our center when our doors are closed. And so you get these people calling, you're not even open.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't know, you know, and like trying to work with them. And I had lots of conversations with Kids Bowl Free, and they're just like, well, we're just trying to keep everything moving, and I get it, but like I'm making people mad. Yeah, so that
Well, yeah,
was,
check out Mark's program because I've heard a lot of good things from that because they have to buy it up front, and he said it's a premium family that comes with that.
What's the name of his company again?
Summer Bowl Pass.
Summer Bowl Pass.
Yeah. These are a couple of our clients are with them. They have good things to say.
I have a question off of that subject on the CRM systems. Have you used the BPA system that,
Not much.
and is there a reason why?
The one that we use has everything that we could ever want, really. And I switched over from HubSpot, which is like a pretty big, well-known one, to this one, which is kind of smaller but on the rise, and it's just been phenomenal. And we've been able to kind of build it out specifically tailored for bowling centers. It's kind of like a sandbox or a clean slate when you get it, and you have a lot of ability to create things, and so that's what we like about it. So then, like that reactivation campaign, we just made it from scratch. We kind of came up with it and built it. So it gives you a lot of.
'Cause I mean, we're pretty loyal to all of that, and I just was wondering what the
Yeah,
what the
I'd be happy-
reasoning was.
Yeah, I'd be happy to connect and take a look at it. I just haven't used it much. We had this one.
It's in Salesforce, so
Yeah, it's built on Salesforce.
yeah.
So
And
I'd take a look at it.
you know, Ronnie and his team do a great job of trying to customize it to the bowling
Yeah.
industry and stuff. But I was
Yeah.
just wondering what your
So I had already been using, so when I transferred into focusing specifically for bowling, I'd already been using that one. It was working, so I just kept it. But I'd be curious to take a look around on it. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Another question for the group. Does anybody charge per person? Or do you guys just do per hour and per game? Per game?
Yeah, we have really bad time luck with by the hour.
By the hour.
It hasn't worked for us, but we're kind of one of the more unique situations because we're 95% elite-based center.
Leagues.
And so we're not trying to promote open play. And, you know, folks that are coming to us are league bowlers who are practicing, and then, you know, the people that are there for an hour at the most, you know, after leagues are over. And so it just time bowling hasn't worked for us. And we've actually there's been a bunch of folks that have come in and asked us about per person, and we just have never thought about it. I mean, that's just
Alex, we had a really good video from John Kilpatrick, son of Dan Kilpatrick, friend of Don over here, and they do per person. It's based off of how many people in your party determines how long of time you have, and you try to base it off of like $10 a person.
That's not fair.
It's on our YouTube channel. Yeah, I can send it to you after. Or if you send me a message, get it to
You
you.
see, we're a proponent of hourly bowling.
Yep.
Yeah.
We've done it that way ever since our 20s, for
Yep.
1 year. And the reason being is, okay, you sell this person the game. Okay, we got our lane.
I'm gonna go smoke, I'm gonna go get a snack.
There you
I'm gonna
go.
talk
And that
to
one
somebody.
game can last an hour.
But-
But if you're paying
Yeah,
it
but-
by the hour, yeah, they can go do their smoking and eating and going to the snack bar. We don't care what
Yeah,
they
you're
do.
paying for it.
Generally, they will come up and add another hour.
Yeah.
If they're out doing stuff.
Yeah.
And the other reason is scheduling. We know exactly how long they're gonna be there. For that game person, we can't tell the person, we don't have 32 lanes, so.
Yeah.
We can't tell if you have a waiting list or something, we can't
You don't
tell
know.
when they're gonna be, but we can tell you within 15 minutes when a lane's gonna be available.
Exactly, yeah.
And we were just in a tournament last weekend in Westcliff, and they've never done hours. It's always been.
Always been working, and that's a league house though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, so it's late.
Yeah, they don't do birthday parties.
Yeah, no, that's a league house.
Alex, what do you guys do now currently?
We do per hour.
Per hour, yeah. So especially like the Friday, Saturday night, that works well because that's when it's busy. Like a lot of the issues they're talking about is when that is. But during the week, it's kind of flip-flops for most people. But
And most of the per game people that we get is only league bowlers, or we get some transplants from Morgan, because the Morgan lanes actually do it by the game. And so they come to us and say, well, I want to pay out 12 people, they're gonna pay, you know, $3 per game per person for 3 games. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, it's cheaper the other way, but okay, I'll let you do it.
why not?
But like I said, you never know when, well, they just bowl, they usually don't need this stuff. But
Well, in our only competition for bowling is Bolero. He charges a ridiculous
Yeah.
amount per hour, so we have zero competition. I mean, when they come to us at $5 a game, I
Right.
mean, it's like talking change.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, you gotta
What's
know.
Valero running at now per hour?
Well, I think Friday, Saturday is like
It's so hard to
$100
tell. There's sometimes that they get quoted, like, I get told that they're asking $120 an hour.
Yeah.
On
that's- that
Friday
would
or
cost me
Saturday
like
night.
yeah.
And then like during the days, like even during the days, they're like 20 or 24
Yeah.
bucks an hour, somewhere in that area. And almost everyone that comes sees us, they're like, you're just so much more inexpensive, which makes me want to raise prices. And actually Amber fights me about this all the time. We raised prices for the first time after COVID, and we're actually where most other centers are. You know, we're $4 and $5 a game now,
Yeah.
and we have more people than we had before.
That goes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, people aren't making money right now. There's definitely an internal problem because everybody has.
Yeah.
They
So
don't do it.
Any other questions? So I got some good stuff on getting candidates next. Do we have any other questions before we hop on the marketing side? Okay. All right. So you guys probably all have some challenges, but I'd be willing to bet that we all have a similar one. So I'd like to start off with a question of, what is your biggest challenge in bowling right now, and why is it staffing? That's it, right? That's everybody's biggest challenge. And I call it your other marketing funnel. Because if we take a hard look at it, what we just talked about for the last hour or so is about bringing customers in through the front door. And I make the argument that all those same things work exactly just as well to bring employees through the back door. It's the same stuff. We're going to be covering the same stuff, just applied to a different problem. We're going to use the same channel, same software, the CRM and all that, same system. We're going to treat them the same. You can automate a lot of the front half, but so here's what we're going to cover. Where to post the job posts, what to actually post, where to send them when they're interested, what to say to them, and then how we can automate a lot of this, just like we talked about before, because we don't have time to do all this stuff, right? But we don't have time because we don't have enough employees. We don't have employees, so we don't have time, right? It's the chicken or the egg. So as far as where to post, like, where do you guys post right now currently? Do you like Craigslist or Indeed or ZipRecruiter, or where do you guys post primarily?
All of the above.
All the above. So I think there's a time and a place for those, especially like some of the higher level jobs, maybe a manager or like, if you're looking for like a director of operations or something like that. But for the higher volume position, the lower skill, I found that the people who are on these are the people who are unemployed or are currently unhappy with their job. And so they're hopping around from job to job, or they're sitting on a couch, or they have to get their quota for going to an interview to keep their unemployment, right?
Yep.
These are the people who are on the Craigslist. But I heard this from a staffing agency who said that 25% of the US workforce was not looking for the job that they currently have when they got it. So to put that another way, they're working in a job totally fine, probably a great employee, they see a great opportunity, they make a switch. That's 25% of the workforce currently. So that tells us that people are willing to make a jump for the right opportunity. We just have to get out in front of them. And we probably have a better opportunity than sometimes we think. So instead, use the Facebook ads. We said we can get to 100,000 people with $400. Why not use the same approach and get out in front of them to show them what kind of opportunity we have? So this is what the example of a job ad looks like. I'm going to go into a little more here. So as far as what we should post for the job ads, I'm going to give you a template at the end, so you guys will have that. We want to get job descriptions that generate interest so that they stop the scroll. We want to focus on what you can win at. Because I don't know about you guys, where I'm from, we have a lot of Amazon warehouses that we got to compete with. They start at like 20, 22 an hour. We can't pay that, but there are some ways you can win. We're going to go over that. What a good job actually looks like, or job ad looks like. So as far as the descriptions, we want something that's going to stop the scroll. If we start out with duties and responsibilities, they're going to keep scrolling. They're trying to have fun or check out, not see what kind of a job they're going to have. So focus on the benefits and make sure you list pay. So I get a lot of pushback on this one because they don't want to upset current employees, or they're going to have to show how much they could be made. If you don't list pay, you lose 75% of your clicks. Simple as that. Because think about it. Why should they take the time to fill out an application and think about switching to work for a company that won't even tell them how much they're going to make? They're just not going to do it. So you lose 75% of the clicks. So just put a range. I like to put a starting range and an upper range. Like what do you make on day one, and what's the most you could possibly make if you're like the perfect employee? The good employee is going to see that upper range and say, I'm going to be worth that. I'll work hard. They're going to be attracted to the opportunity, and they're going to want to make that upper range, knowing that it's not going to be on day one. Keep them short. As you see here, it's like 10 lines. It's not the whole job ad on here. It's just something to get them interested, just like how on the front side with the customers, we're showing a video, just some nibbles of all the fun to be had just to get their attention, and then we'll work out the details later. Same thing with the job candidates. And then focusing on the benefits. If you see here, I don't know it's not too hard to read, so it's all the things that benefit them. Free food, % off drinks, flexible hours, all that stuff is all we're really focused on. And I don't have it in here, but use the emojis. They capture people's attention. It shows you're fun. And I think that we're all probably a fun place to work for most of the time. So let's show them that right off the bat. Focusing on what you can win. So this is what I'm talking about. Big employers in town who scoop up all the talent, or it seems like you can't compete on wages. But here's the thing, wages are only one part of the equation. I'm willing to bet that you have a better work environment. Has anybody heard those stories about the Amazon workers who have to pay in the bottles to make their numbers because they don't have time to go to the bathroom? It sounds like an awful job, right? We probably have a much better work environment than that. So you can win on that piece. You have more accommodating and flexible schedules. If they need to move things around, you can just, move the shifts around and make it work for them. A lot of places, like, this is your schedule, you can't change it. Or you got to get like 5 different approvals to make any adjustments. You guys are flexible and accommodating. You have growth opportunities. So if a good employee comes in, how many people would love to have like a good employee come in and you can get a new assistant manager or get them to be a GM just because they're a killer employee? They want to come in and grow and be, growth mindset. So we have those available. Some places you get the job and you're like, well, in 5 years, you'll be eligible to go up to this level if this person leaves. And they're in a dead end. They can't do anything. Probably have a lot of like free bowling or food offering, right? If they come in, if they work a shift or a double shift, they get some kind of comp meal or free bowling. Or some people, they give it to the family. You and your family can bowl afterwards. Like, no other place, you don't get that at like warehouse. So not everybody's going to value those things over the wages. You do get mercenaries out there, but for the right employees, they're going to value these things over a couple bucks an hour. They're going to be like, hey, this is worth it for me. This looks like a nice place to work. I'm willing to switch for that. As far as what a good job ad looks like, you can see a picture of smiling employees. It's a big indicator. So when you do your photo shoot, make sure you get some employees to smile, even if it's only for 10 seconds.
Thinking about who you take photos.
Yes, exactly.
Pictures of me.
Because this is how they envision themselves when they're there. So they want to see people smiling and like this is their reflection of what the job is like, even if it's subconsciously. So then you have the wages at the top. Always add plus tips if tips are on the table, because that's in addition to the hourly. They should be taking that into consideration. Free food, free bowling, part-time, or you have multiple positions or full-time or part-time available. And then growth opportunities, and then the click here. So this guy, when we did this ad, he filled the position in less than a week. He had like 10 or 12 different applicants, and he quickly filled it. He was looking for cooks. Which, by the way, he said in his place, high school girls are the best cooks he's ever found. So I don't know, take with that what you will, but he said they come in and they're much better than anyone else he's working with. And he's the nicest restaurant in town. It's also a bowling center. It's maybe something to look for. Which actually reminds me, the one caveat for the Facebook ads is, remember that targeting that we talked about before, how you can target who your ads go to? Most of that is off the table for job ads. Because Facebook got sued by the DOL for discriminating. They weren't really, but their users were discriminating with the, who they're showing the job ad to. And so they take it all away. If their AI detects any kind of job position, the targeting is off. You can't use it.
Well, so at World Expo last year in Vegas, one of the presenters said, do not do this anymore because you can use your page.
So yeah, you just have to follow the rules, but you're allowed to do it. So you can't try to skirt around their rules. Because a lot of times, like, it can be tough for like a bartender who has to be 21, and we put a target on 21, and usually the ads get rejected. But then if you submit it for approval, because it's just a bot that does the initial screen, you submit it for a review, and then it gets through. So there's lots of people doing this.
We used to do that's all we used to do. And then after that presentation last year, we quit.
Yeah.
We don't want to lose our business.
It's just targeting. As long as you follow the rules.
Over part-time Susie.
Yeah, like you can't put any of that stuff in there.
Yeah, we just gotta, it's just the targeting. As long as you follow the rules. There's a special spot for it. Is this for a job? And you just say yes, and we're good. So just don't get the 3 strikes in the round. Once they click on the ad, this is where you want to send them to. This is their application. So we don't want to make a huge, show me your past 3 addresses, your past 3 employers, references, all that stuff. There's a time and place for that. It's not right here. We want a name, an email, and a phone number, and a really quick overview of their work history. Like, what'd you do, in 3 or 4 sentences. Not even a resume. We want to make it as easy as possible for them. If we're getting too many applicants, we can add friction later. But most of us, I think, have too few applicants, so why have so much friction out of the gate? Make it easy for them, and then we can lift it up as we need to. Again, use the in-house images of your center. Keep the benefits top of mind, because again, they still have to fill out this form, and we want to remind them why they're taking the time to fill this out, and keep them excited about the opportunity. Because we're trying to get people to switch from a job that they're perfectly content with to come work for you instead. So we want to keep reminding them of why that is. Keep the info basic. And you can add screens. Like I said, if you have a lot of candidates coming in or you find a particular thing that you're running into, like reliable transportation, you can add that on there. But keep it basic to start and add it as you need to. We don't need to put more hurdles in the way. I also am a fan of the work summary instead of the resumes. Because if we think about it, a lot of these people don't have a resume. It might be their first job, or they just not, in that professional kind of position. We can have them create one. Like when we schedule the interview with a phone screen, have them create it in the meantime, they'll come up with it. But to have it up front, they'll be like, oh, I don't have a resume, I can't apply. And you just lost a perfectly good person to probably accept. So just do a work summary to start. As far as what to say, this is just like we talked about with the speak the lead, right? If we get to the candidate like 8 hours later, they might have applied somewhere else and got a position, or just lost interest. So we want to get to them quickly. Most of them, especially the younger kids, prefer text. And I actually just talked to a guy last week who did a whole interview via text. I'm not purporting that to get there yet, but it's out there. So people are doing the whole thing by text, but they prefer it. So when they submit it, let them know where they're at in the process. So, hey, we got your application. Click here to schedule, select your interview, and then you can follow up with them. Hey, we're still considering applicants. Just let them know, because this is like your first impression for them. Like how you treat them in this moment is kind of how you're starting the relationship off. We don't want to start it with like being in the dark and just like you don't really care about them. If we think about our employees, we tend to treat them pretty well. We know the value of the employees, they're worth more to us than customers, but sometimes that courtesy doesn't get extended to the applicants. They're kind of still outsiders, but we need to kind of treat them like they're potential employees who can join the family and help run the business. Who here's had people not show up to their interviews? Has this ever happened to you before? Never, right? So here's some tips on getting to actually show up that we found that worked. So I'm not saying you have to do it one way or another, but this is what we've done to get show-up rates to go up 2 to 3 times the rate of what it initially was. Make it low barrier to entry to start. Your first contact, if you force them to come in and do an in-person interview, you're going to lose a lot of people. And I think that everyone should do an in-person interview, but not as the very first time you talk to them. Because some of these people, it's daunting, they forget. Start with a phone screen, talk to them for 5 minutes, make sure they're not a weirdo, make sure you want them in your building. They can see that you're friendly and you're not like, a jerk, or at least you can be nice to them for 5 minutes, bring them in, and then schedule the interview from there. So start with a phone screen, ask them basic questions, and then, go from there. The other thing is, don't assume that they decided on you, because if they're a top talent employee, they might have 3 or 4 other spots they're looking at. So if we just assume, oh, you got to show up and you're lucky to work for us, then they probably would just take one of those other 4 options they have and not show up at the interview because they have another job. That's where they went. They went to somebody else. Like I said, to be clear, in-person interview, yes, but not the very first time. Do the phone screen. FaceTime is great for this also. If you have an iPhone, FaceTime is great. You can kind of see them if they have piercings or weird hair, you can get that up front. But this, exactly, exactly. You can find that out quickly. Yeah, use the phone screen first. And I'm a big proponent of scheduling, having that self-scheduled. So you guys pick whatever works for you. With Wednesdays 1 to 3 and Tuesdays 4 to 5, or when you can do interviews. Have that in your calendar for the CRM system, and then they can just book themselves in as they want. So you don't have to go to that whole back and forth to get it scheduled. They just pick the time they want. Comes up on your calendar, oh, I got to call them at this time, and that's it. As far as getting them to show up, like we said, text messages have a 95% open rate. I think it's 98 actually, it's even higher. So send them a text reminder. Why wouldn't we do that? Just say, hey, you have an interview tomorrow, looking forward to chatting with you. I'll give you a call at this number. Don't forget about it. Because remember, the people who we're talking to in a lot of these positions, they're not professionals. They don't live their life by a calendar. They forget about these things. And then they ghost you because they're embarrassed, not because they don't care anymore. They're embarrassed that they missed their appointment, and now they think, oh, I'm not going to get the job. So just a simple reminder the day before and an hour before. So you just let them know, you have an interview tomorrow, look forward to chatting. Hey, our call's coming up in an hour. I'll give you a call on this number. And that alone will double or triple your rates. For sure. Just a little quick reminder. It's the small things that add up. So this is an example of one we use. Don't forget it's so much your time for look forward to speaking to you shortly. It's too quick. These are automated. If you have the CRM, they go out automatically based off of their calendar appointment time. So all you have to do is make the call.
It's very easy.
Let's go takeaways for getting candidates. Because I know this is a big issue for us. Is there anything that you think you might be able to try or use from this or plan to use?
Text message.
Text, yeah. You're fortunate you have this system ready to go just on a button.
I already do the phone screen.
Yeah.
Always call it, here's the question.
And you find that it's helpful, right?
Where I want to go.
Exactly.
Yeah, the cinder blocks came in on
Who else?
lane 30 right now.
I know there's gotta be one or two.
All right, guys.
See it.
Maybe with using the Facebook ads instead of just the Craigslist. All right, any questions on that material so far?
I have a question.
Sure.
We are looking for.
Throw all these things out and it doesn't work. It's a different, yeah, it's harder. So I have someone who can do a search for you, but it's definitely harder.
And we're willing to train them, but I'm open to suggestions on where to find a good mechanic that can be trained. We have run some B2s, and also, we don't necessarily need a full-time mechanic. So if anybody has a mechanic that,
Pretty like, so you have an advocate already for a mini.
I have like a semi-engaged. We're looking for, so we bring a guy up from Denver who's like a master mechanic once a month, but I'm trying to get another really good mechanic on rotation. Try and get somebody up once a week. Fix major machines.
So you're an open lighthouse.
Yeah, so I can connect you with a guy who does placements. He knows mechanics around the country and you can connect with them, but it's definitely harder. Maybe one of these fine people will share with you.
There's one other thing, and that is old tech.
Yep.
So a lot of people, it might just be another source of a master mechanic. Somebody can go up there and help train or motivate or give some direction. But old tech is where probably the top 10% to communicate with each other and stuff.
A lot of those have moved to the Facebook page.
And yes,
Because that's really the next step from Voltec is the best Facebook page specifically for mechanics.
Mechanics.
It's a great resource just that, you can throw the questions out there and they can answer them. A lot of people just sit there on it.
Yeah.
But it's used to be Voltec mainly, but now it's more Facebook pages specifically for
What's the page called?
I'm on the AMF one, but it's
Okay.
They have Brunswick too.
Okay. I see. Good. All right, so as promised,
We have the school.
Right.
That was me and another girl, and she was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So we have a guy that's doing it that we're planning to send to a school, but I want to get another person involved.
Oh, and I understand it. I was just questioning whether you would, that there are other states that'll be having the class. It's not going to be as cheap as we had here.
Yeah, we've already got a spot to look at.
You do.
Is that the one in November? God, I missed the button on that.
Okay, well, that was discussed.
No, that's good because I think what we could do too is also provide you that list
Yes.
of individuals that attended.
Yeah, I have it somewhere, but if you wouldn't mind, if you have a copy of it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, if he heads off somebody else's list, that's going to be a problem.
I'm not trying to steal, I just put like.
kind of poaching. Huh?
Yeah, not poaching.
Make sure I don't send any of my mechanics there.
370s, I might think about coming up there a while.
Head on their mission.
Yeah.
All right, so as promised, I told you guys I'd give you some freebies. Our shot list, that growth dial calculator, the spreadsheet, you guys can run your own numbers. The templates for the job ads that we post, as well as our keyword list and a checklist that shows like things you want to check for your digital presence on your Facebook, your website. So if you want any of this stuff, just text your email to this number and I'll get it right over to you. If you guys are interested. And then last but not least, like I said at the top, this is exactly what we do. These are all of our secret recipes. I tell them to you guys in the hopes that you can implement them, but if you want any help cooking at any point, give me a call. This is my cell phone. I'd be happy to see if there's anything we can do. That's it.
What's the number to text to?
Yeah. You got it?
Got it, thanks.
Like that. Just try it.
And that's it?
All right. Awesome.